The founders were smart.
No, they weren't.
If they were smart, they would have built a bypass to let the workers divert steam down to the giant reservoir right below their feet. They'd have as much time as they wanted to make repairs without any overpressure risk.
Before I became a professor, I operated nuclear power plants on board submarines in the US Navy. I love Apple TV's Silo. I love power plants, and I even love this episode, but we found 10 problems that the kiddies will help explain so that you can both enjoy the show and also learn a little bit more about how power plants really work. And we can forgive the first 9 as no big deal, technically incorrect, but makes the show more visually interesting, and that's okay. But number 10, the whole fire hose thing, no, it's bad. They should have written this whole section differently, and I'll tell you what should have happened.
Why are they doing the repairs in the first place? Answer: there's damage to the blades, and it's making this gigantic spinning turbine off balance. This is just like a washing machine where the comforter gets all bunched up on one side, or Juliette's demo of a spinning top is also a really good example.
I kept waiting for the top to fall, Inception, like, is the whole silo a dream?
In real-world engineering applications, you can balance a spinning object with an adjustable counterweight, so that when you adjust the weight, you can move the overall center of gravity back to the middle. In Silo's turbine, the damaged blades are kind of loose and they're moving and getting worse over time. So that's probably what Juliette is doing inside the turbine. She's adjusting the counterweight to rebalance it as best she can.
But here's what they forgot. When they do the repairs at the end, nobody goes in and removes or readjusts this counterweight. If they repaired the damage and his counterweight was still there, it would totally overcorrect things and the imbalance would be even worse than it was before.
250 years ago, in 1775, scientist Charles Blagden wrote an article, Further Experiments and Observations in a Heated Room, which, as you might guess, scientists stood themselves inside ovens and wrote down how they felt. After entering a 260-degree Fahrenheit oven with no shirt, he wrote,
Found that we could bear the heat very well, though the first sensation was always more disagreeable than with our clothes. But those 260-degree Fahrenheit experiments were entirely dry ovens. Saunas are a little different. They create steam by pouring water on rocks. Now, 2010 was the final year of the Sauna World Championships. Because a contestant died after just 6 minutes in steamy temperatures of 110 Celsius or 230 degrees Fahrenheit.
And inside the turbine is way worse than the sauna. We see on the pressure gauge that pressure at the exit is 8 bar. Now this is high. First, this means that the turbine is very inefficient and the steam still has lots of energy at the end. The exit pressure should be about 1 bar, right around atmospheric pressure. But temperature is the real issue.
At a pressure of 8 bar, the temperature in the turbine is at least 170 Celsius or 340 Fahrenheit.
And this turbine should be whooshing with maybe 1,000 gallons per minute of boiling steam. A steamy 340 degrees Fahrenheit? There's no way Juliette could survive in there for even a few seconds. Speaking of pressure gauges, let's take a closer look at the pressure gauge in episode 3, Main Feed Pump Discharge. A normal steam power plant has 4 main components. A pump to increase the pressure of the water so it can hold more energy, then a boiler to boil the water to steam, adding all the energy to the water, a turbine that is spun by the very fast-moving steam, thus removing energy from the water to create electricity, and at last, a condenser to condense any remaining steam back into water so that can be pumped back up again. Because most pumps, the way that they work, they can only pump water. They can't pump gases.
In Juliette's silo, we only see the turbine. No pump, no boiler, no condenser.
We're led to believe that the steam is created naturally, like geothermal, like Old Faithful, except continuous. But in this case, the pressure gauge would be mislabeled, and maybe that gives us a clue as to the lore of the show, that the silo power plant wasn't built for this silo, and that it's actually composed of scavenged parts from an old above-ground power plant that did have a pump in its system. Maybe that's kind of cool to know that these silos were built in an emergency, because if they had time to actually plan these out really well, they would have gotten gauges with proper labels on them to show what they really represent.
Or this could be a clue that the steam is coming from another silo. There could be a nuclear power plant somewhere else with a pump, and this gauge is actually measuring output from a pump just controlled by another silo. If you think Indy and me are doing a good job, leave a comment with your favorite churu color, and we'll post some of your comments in the next video, and it'll be like you are the one giving us our snacks.
Turbines are basically never installed vertically, like me. They're always laid out horizontal, like Serenity.
Water holds energy in three forms: enthalpy, which is temperature and pressure; kinetic energy, which is how fast it's moving; and the third is potential energy due to its height. Like the Hoover Dam is really tall, it has a lot of gravitational potential energy. Now, the goal of a steam turbine is to convert enthalpy, the pressure and temperature, into speed, kinetic energy, to spin the big heavy turbine blades. Anytime you have steam moving upwards, or having to go up in order to come down, that is a waste of energy, converting temperature and pressure to potential energy instead of kinetic. So a vertical turbine is very inefficient, but it does look awesome for the show, but that's not how it would ever really be built in real life.
Where does the steam enter the turbine?
The steam comes in from way down deep. No one knows from where. All we know is that it comes up through this pipe, makes this bend, and goes straight up to the turbine.
From the chalkboard, you'd think the steam blasts upwards like Old Faithful, but that can't be true because look at the slope of the blades. If the steam were blasting upwards, the turbine would be spinning to the left, not the right.
And I mentioned before the possibility of this turbine being salvaged from an above-ground power plant, not built especially for the silo. That theory is reinforced by the shape and size of the blades. The smallest diameter is in the middle, which is what you would expect for most power plants that have steam enter the middle and like divert and go both left and right. Or for this vertical one, steam enters the middle and goes both up and down.
If you look at the hourglass shape of the turbine, the smallest diameter is in the middle. That's where the entrance should be. When steam enters a turbine, it's very high pressure, 50 bar in this case. But as it leaves, it is in lower pressure, 8 bar. As pressure decreases, volume increases. This is why the blades of a turbine get bigger, a larger diameter. As you get further from the middle, the steam expands to take up more space, so you need more blade surface area for it to all pass through. But there's a huge problem. If the steam enters the middle at the small diameter, the steam moving down would be pushing blades to the right, but the steam moving up would be pushing blades to the left. So the top half blades would need to be reverse orientation if they all wanted to be pushing in the same direction.
So the only way this turbine could be rotating to the right is if the steam that comes up from the bottom actually circles up around to the top and enters from the top of the turbine, blasting downwards. But that has it hitting the largest blade diameters first, which the physics of it just doesn't work. This turbine also has no stationary blades, which is a really big problem. Most turbines will have alternating blades, spinning, stationary, all the way through. Steam pushes the spinning blades, then the steam passes through the stationary blades, which function like a nozzle to redirect the steam into like the perfect direction to give the most energy to the next row of moving blades. Then again, reposition and re-aimed in the blades after that. So without stationary blades, the steam would all basically just be flung instantly to the outside walls, and all the rest of the blades beneath it wouldn't really get a chance to do anything.
detaching panels C and D. Both? It's the only way to assess what's inside.
They must weigh
1.35 tons each.
This is silly. They make a big deal about how hard these will be to lift, then you clearly see they have pulley systems rigged up to give them mechanical advantage, and they lift these covers off no problem.
The engineering mistake, though, is speed. The way mechanical advantage is gained with pulleys, you have to pull faster to get that extra strength. 1.35 tons is 2,700 pounds. 5 guys means each guy is pulling 540 pounds. If they are actually exerting 54 pounds of strength, 10% of the weight, it should only be moving at 10% of the speed that they are pulling. It's moving way too fast based on how lazy they are at pulling these chains.
Switching to backup.
We know there's a backup generator. If it's still getting steam while the valve is closed, it must be connected somewhere upstream. From Pascal's law, we expect pressure to be the same in that entire section of pipe. This 200 to 250 bar pressure that's causing such problems on this main valve, turning it red hot glowing, that exact same temperature and pressure is being felt by all of the pipes and systems leading to the backup generator. Why aren't they red hot also?
Everyone thinks their job in the silo is the most important. Mine actually is.
You're holding a fire hose. She's already single-handedly saving the silo from forever darkness. Whatever writers said to themselves, we need to show Juliette being a hero, I know, she should be a fireman. This is so lazy and really talking down to the audience. Everything else was fine, the turbine being vertical because it's a vertical silo, that's fine, it's the look of the show. But they already introduced Juliette as a badass that can withstand a 340-degree steamy turbine. They already showed Juliette as being incredibly strong and brave, climbing down the rope into the water reservoir down by the digger. Why can't her saving the day as a mechanic and engineer be enough? Why does she have to be a firefighter also? She abandoned her post.
The slightest mistake at any point could get somebody killed, or worse, leave 10,000 people in the dark forever.
She has the most important job in the silo, and in the most important moment of the most important job, she leaves to do something that literally anybody could do, and there's at least a dozen people standing around doing literally nothing. How about this extra that gets confused on what to do because they're only told to run along the catwalk, but they got to the end before the scene was over, so they stood around like, oh, what do I do now? Have them hold the fire hose.
But even with all that, that's still the stupidest way to use the fire hose. I get it. PV equals MRT. If you lower the temperature, you lower the pressure. But remember, the entire system on the other side of this valve is going to be the same temperature and pressure. Since heat transfer is based on surface area, there's way more surface area up by the backup generator than on that one circular valve. If she actually wanted to cool the system, she should have been spraying all of the easy, safe backup generator piping. This would have had a much greater cooling effect. Now, it probably would have still had hardly any effect, but it would have been better than what she did.
And when Juliette ropes down, the most important repair work in decades going on, and that one person can rope up to hold a flashlight for the kid or hold the blade in place while he bolts it down and gets the angle just right? Who's running this operation?
And here's what should have happened. They should have had a pipe on the backup generator side actually blow, and as the backup turbine spins down, it goes dark. Juliette and the team managed to still somehow finish the repairs with hammers and flashlights, and as they reopen the valve and steam goes back to the main turbine, as it starts to spin up and the lights turn on, everybody starts cheering except for Juliette. The camera slowly zooms in on the turbine, showing it speeding up, and slowly zooms in on her worried face. And then finally, when the turbine gets up to speed and you hear that humming sound, you get the wide angle shot of the full glory of the working turbine, and you see Juliette exhale a sigh of relief Up to this point in the series, Juliette has been presented as possibly a conspiracy theorist. This sort of ending would reinforce to the audience that Juliette has trustworthy intuition, that she can look past the surface distraction and diagnose the real problem. They don't need to make her a fireman in order for the audience to believe that she's a hero. Look at the face of these engineers. Tell me that these are not the faces of a hero.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn what went wrong in a real-world engineering disaster, then check out me, Detective Indiana, in this video about a bridge collapse.